The old church stood on the outskirts of Manali, a town known for its serene beauty and tranquil landscapes. It was a skeletal silhouette against the misty mountain backdrop, a stark contrast to the vibrant life of the town below. Locals never ventured near it. The church was shrouded in an aura of mystery and fear, a place where even the bravest souls hesitated to tread. They whispered tales of strange occurrences, of ghostly apparitions and eerie sounds that echoed through the night. Some swore they heard chanting at midnight, a haunting melody that sent shivers down their spines. Others saw flickering lights within its decaying walls, as if the spirits of the past were still holding their ghostly vigils. Nobody dared to investigate, fearing what they might uncover. One day a stray dog wandered too close. It was a curious creature driven by hunger and the hope of finding shelter. It was a scruffy thing, all ribs and matted fur, a pitiful sight that tugged at the heartstrings of those who saw it. It sniffed at the church door, tail wagging tentatively, as if sensing something beyond the wooden barrier. Then, in a blink, it was gone, pulled inside by an unseen force, leaving only a faint echo of its last whimper. The heavy wooden door remained shut, as if it had never opened. The silence that followed was deafening. Only silence met the ears of those who claimed to have witnessed it. The villagers were left with more questions than answers. The story spread like wildfire, igniting the imaginations and fears of everyone in the village. It fueled the fear surrounding the abandoned church, turning it into a place of dread and superstition. Nobody dared to find out what happened to the dog. The church remained a symbol of dread, a looming testament to the unseen forces at play. The mystery of the church and the fate of the dog became a part of local folklore, a chilling reminder of the unknown. The church remained a symbol of dread, a place where the line between the living and the dead seemed to blur. It was a looming testament to the unseen forces at play, a reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved. A group of university students visited Manali. They were on a break, seeking adventure. They craved thrills, their young blood pulsing with excitement. They had heard the local tales, of course. The haunted church intrigued them.
Nobody has ever gone in and come back to tell the tale, chuckled Vikram, the group's daredevil.
What if we're the first? Mira challenged, her eyes gleaming.
Thus, their curiosity was piqued. They decided to explore the abandoned church. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, they set out one evening. Their destination, the haunted church on the hill. The air grew heavy as they approached the church, a sense of foreboding settling over them like a dark shroud. Each step they took seemed to echo in the silence, amplifying their unease. The once bright sun was now hidden behind thick clouds, casting an ominous shadow over the ancient structure. It was as if the very sky was warning them to turn back. A chilly wind whistled through the trees, like a mournful cry. The branches swayed and creaked, adding to the eerie symphony that surrounded them. The church door creaked open with a groan, the sound reverberating through the still air. It was as if the building itself was reluctant to let them in. The students stepped inside, their hearts pounding in their chests. Each one felt a chill run down their spine as they crossed the threshold. Dust motes danced in the pale moonlight filtering through broken stained glass windows. The light cast eerie patterns on the floor, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. The air was thick with the scent of decay and something else, something unnameable and sinister. It was a smell that hinted at long-forgotten secrets and untold horrors. Cobwebs draped the pews like macabre decorations, their delicate threads shimmering in the dim light. It was clear that no one had been here for a very long time. The students' breath caught in their throats. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the old building settling.
"Do you feel that?" whispered Anjali, her voice trembling. It was as if the very air around them was alive, watching and waiting.
"It feels cold," replied another student, their voice barely above a whisper. The cold seemed to seep into their bones, making them shiver despite the layers of clothing they wore.
Suddenly, a flicker of light caught their eye. At the far end of the church, near the altar, a single candle flickered to life. A shadowy figure moved in the dim light.
"Who's there?"
It was a woman, dressed in what appeared to be a nun's habit. Her face was hidden in the shadows. The figure turned. The candlelight illuminated her face. Her skin was ghastly pale, her eyes hollow and filled with a chilling sadness. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but only a low, mournful moan escaped her lips, then she vanished. Panic seized the students. They scrambled towards the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if an unseen hand held it shut. They were trapped. The temperature plummeted. The air grew thick with a palpable dread. The flickering candle at the altar extinguished, plunging them into darkness. Then, the whispers started. They swirled around them, voices filled with anger and despair. A cold wind whipped through the church, swirling the dust into a frenzy. The students huddled together, their hearts pounding in their chests. Then, they saw them. Glowing eyes materialized in the darkness. They were surrounded. Mandeep, the quiet one, surprised everyone. He was always the one who kept to himself, rarely speaking unless spoken to. But that night, something changed. There was a determination in his eyes that no one had seen before. He pulled out a silver locket from his bag. It was an old, tarnished piece, but it held a special significance to him. It held a picture of a saint, his grandmother's prized possession. She had always told him that the locket had protective powers, passed down through generations. He clutched it tightly and started to recite a prayer. The words were ancient, almost forgotten, but they flowed from his lips as if he had known them all his life. His voice, though trembling at first, grew stronger. Each word seemed to carry a weight, a power that resonated in the air around him. A blinding light emanated from the locket. It was so bright that it seemed to cut through the very fabric of reality. It pierced the darkness, forcing the shadowy figures back. These figures, once menacing and overwhelming, now seemed to cower in fear. The whispers turned into screams of anguish as the light intensified. The very air seemed to vibrate with the intensity of the light, pushing back the malevolent forces. When the light subsided, the church was empty. The once oppressive atmosphere had lifted, leaving behind an eerie silence. The students rushed out, gasping for breath. They were disoriented, their minds struggling to comprehend what had just happened. The door, now miraculously open, swung shut behind them. It was as if the church itself was sealing away the darkness that had once inhabited it. The church stood on the hill, silent and still. But something was different. The oppressive aura that had once surrounded it was gone. The air felt lighter, cleansed. It was as if a heavy burden had been lifted from the very land itself. The next day, the students woke up. They felt different, as if they had been reborn. They had no memory of the previous night. It was as if the events had been wiped from their minds, leaving only a vague sense of unease. And the church on the hill? It was gone, vanished without a trace. Not a single stone or piece of wood remained. The town of Manali was peaceful once more. The dark cloud that had hung over it had lifted, bringing back a sense of normalcy. The haunted church was nothing but a distant memory, or was it? The townsfolk couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed forever.